What is UB Funkies? UB Funkies was a game developed by Radica and Arcadium, and published by a small toy company you probably haven't heard of called Mattel. They make Hot Wheels and Barbie and God knows what else. It may seem simple on the surface, but this iceberg goes deep. This is UB Funkies, A Brief History. We start with a guy named Jeff. Jeff had an idea. This idea impressed a coworker of his, and he pointed Jeff to Radica, who was developing a game with a similar concept to Jeff's idea. What was his idea? To sell kids games on a little USB stick. Each USB stick would be a different world, but focus groups showed that kids enjoyed the characters on the screen more than the games in the world themselves. Kids also asked, why the hell are we in this world? What are we supposed to do? The solution? So turn the physical USB stick into toys that kids can play with, not only in the game, but also in real life. And give the game a story, a protagonist, an antagonist, and a guide. For the sake of time, I won't go into the plot of the game, but it goes deep, trust me. This all leads to the game was an instant success. The amount of love and care the team had put into the game paid off. A rather new website was on the horizon, called YouTube. Jeff posted commercials to his page, providing the game with basically free advertisement. They went semi-viral. Also on YouTube were kids making skits with the toys and their own stories. I was one of these kids. Kids also traded the figures like trading cards and showed how far into the game they were. Jeff was proud and knew the Funkies team had something special. Within the first few months of UB Funkies, it was a $30 million IP. Merchandise was even beginning to be planned. The team instantly knew they had to start on a new expansion. An expansion called This Whole New World only reinforced everyone's love with UB Funkies. And the new characters were beloved by everyone. It seemed like nothing could go wrong. There were even new Funkies shown off at the New York Toy Fair in 2008. Oh look, it's Mr. Mattel coming to the UB Funkies team with... Warner Brothers was working on a live-action Speed Racer movie, and they wanted Mattel to make the merchandise for it. They gave all the different toy lines the same prompt. So Hot Wheels would plan on making like a Speed Racer car or something, and UB Funkies would make like a Speed Racer world, etc. Somehow, UB Funkies was the one that ended up being chosen. I don't know how that happened, but the team had 2 waves of Speed Racer characters planned. But the movie came and went, and it kinda sucked. So Mattel saw no reason to release the Wave 2 of the Speed Racer figures. This was the first time Funkies would go completely unreleased to the public. This was kind of a big blow to the game, but they could recover, and they did exactly that with the next expansion. Alright, this is where things get like really intense, so I'm not going to show any gameplay footage, even though I'd love to, because the new Dream and Nightmare worlds are easily my favorites in the game. But anyways, this was like objectively UB Funkies peak. The Funkies team were at Comic-Con 2008 giving away Dot, who was an exclusive Funky, and only 2,000 were ever made. The fast food restaurant Wendy's, yeah, that one, had Funkies kids meal toys too. And the merchandise that was planned like a year ago was finally starting to drop. A custom Funky art show was even held for charity. And biggest of all, there was even going to be a UB Funkies TV show. Yeah, that's right. On screen you can see some of the concept art. But if you're paying attention, I said there was going to be a TV show, not there was a TV show. That's because of a tragic tale told by Jeff in an interview. The story goes as told that Mattel approached Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon with 2 ideas for a show. One was the UB Funkies show, and the other was for another toy line called Monster High. Jeff describes the foggy day in New York City. They were high up in some fucking skyscraper, I don't know, presenting their pitch. Jeff claims that it was a slam dunk for the Funkies team, but later they found out that Mattel had already planned for the Monster High show to be picked. The decision was made before the meeting even occurred. This was really devastating to the team, but they kept going. They wouldn't give up. They couldn't give up. They had high hopes for their next expansion. So, I'm going to be honest, there's not much on the history side of things that happened in this era, but it's still a fun area to explore. There was lots of lore in the game revealed in the storyline of this zone, with a great war and a king who isolated himself on a mountain. Funkies, there was a game where Funkies beat the crap out of each other. But a weird feature was this character named Angus, who you could buy various items for with real-life money, which was a little weird because you already had to pay real money to get the figures. But it did come with a perk. He could let you play the Funkies game without actually having the figure, which was really useful for Dot because there were only 2,000 in existence. Another member of the Funkies team that isn't Jeff actually hinted at future zones during this era on a forum called Ask Funk-E. That's like funk, the word, dash the letter E. Not like the kind of funky we've been talking about. But along with that, the New York Toy Fair in 2009 also showed off many new characters. Some were going to be released in... But there was something wrong. Mattel had just announced to the Funkies team that they would be discontinuing the Funkies. And the team wasn't even done with the next expansion. This was really bad. Should they rush the update, or should they discontinue without any new content? But in the end, the team chose to rush out an update. Something I forgot to mention earlier in the video, every Funky has a common, a rare, and a very rare variant, which are just different colors of the same Funky. So, as a gift to the fans, the UB Funkies team decided to put out the Paradox Green update and managed to put out the very rare figures, so the fans could get the most out of the new update. Why were they discontinued? Jeff says it was for no good reason. The stores would be allowed to sell what they had, and that'd be it. No more UB Funkies. But what about... In January of 2012, all online and multiplayer features went offline. The website is down and will never be put back up. But how could this happen? There are so many things we still don't know about the game. There are questions that need answering. Like, who composed the soundtrack? What does that big orange button do? What's behind the Yeti in Daydream Oasis? Where did Dr. Tinker go? Why do all the broken portals I see all over the world make me want to cry? Okay, anyways. After UB Funkies was gone, Skylanders came along, utilizing the same kind of toys-to-life subgenre that UB Funkies created. Then Disney Infinity, then Amiibo, then LEGO Dimension. All of these games, whether they know it or not, were inspired by UB Funkies. But what about the future of UB Funkies itself? Well, sad thing is no one really knows. The community has come together to document lost media such as old commercials, and some have tracked down those involved in the game, such as Jeff and Brian Sommers, who voice acted in the game. Some people have come out and shown that they have prototype figures that were never released, such as the DC crossover. DC, like Batman and stuff, that was going to be a thing. Some are working on remakes of the game, and Jeff is the one who made the video possible. We wouldn't have known about half this stuff without him. And look at all this cool concept art he gave us. Thanks, Jeff. And just like the history of UB Funkies, this video will abruptly end